The Galactic Senate chamber was a place of grandeur beyond imagination, with crystalline spires reaching toward the vaulted ceiling and walls that shimmered like molten silver. Thousands of delegates from every known civilization sat in meticulously arranged tiers, their voices blending into a low hum of whispers, arguments, and speculation. Each species had its distinctive presence. The serpentine, with their jeweled scales coiled neatly around their seats, the towering representatives clicking softly to each other, and the gaseous loom drifting gently in containment fields that pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. In the center of all this opulence and Aeordan sat a single empty seat, stark in its simplicity and presence. The seat reserved for Earth. It was an unassuming design, made of polished wood instead of the ornate metals and stones used by others, with a single cloth draped over the backrest. Embroidered into that cloth were two simple words, listening. The whispers in the chamber seemed louder each time the Grand Assembly convened and found that seat still empty. Some dismissed Earth's absence as arrogance. Others speculated it was cowardice. But those who had dealt with humans before, those who had traded, competed, and fought beside them, exchanged uncertain glances. They knew humanity's silence was rarely ignorance or weakness. It was calculation. High Chancellor Kovar of the Avian Presidium, feathers shimmering like molten copper under the Senate's soft glow, wrapped his talons on the grand speaking podium. The murmurs died. His voice, magnified by the chamber's acoustics, rang out sharp and clear. Delegates of the Great Galactic Union, today we move to address the continued absence of Earth from our deliberations. For cycles now, we have extended invitations, offers of trade partnerships, and requests for military alignment. We have received no reply. He let his gaze drift pointedly toward the empty seat. Their silence, we must interpret as consent to decisions made without them. A rustle of agreement, some smug, some uneasy. The proposal before the Council, Kovar continued, is the implementation of restrictive trade sanctions, the dissolution of Earth's provisional colonial rights, and the deployment of observation vessels in their vicinity. We will not allow a wild card in our carefully balanced equation. Delegates tapped their approval panels, and glowing sigils of affirmation appeared across the chamber. But not all pressed their marks. In a side tier, Eldon of the Christine refracted dim hues of warning. Beside him, a representative of the warrior shuffled uneasily, mandibles clicking. High Chancellor Kovar ignored them. His eyes glinted with, as he concluded, Earth's silence is permission. Let history record this day. As he prepared to dismiss the assembly, the chamber lights flickered once, then twice. A pause. Delegates glanced at one another. And then every personal data slate, every holographic console, every display screen across the chamber lit up at once with the same message. Large, bold letters shimmered in perfect galactic standard text. You asked for our voice. The silence that followed was oppressive, heavier than any weapon. Kovar's smug expression faltered. The clicking of keys and rustle of digita parchments ceased. The entire assembly froze in collective breathlessness. In the far corner of the chamber, a loom emissary rippled nervously. The ambassador folded his arms in rigid anticipation. The Eldon's refracted glow deepened to a solemn purple. A soft chime sounded. Another message followed, scrolling slowly across the central dais hologram for all to see. We listened. Kovar's voice cracked as he attempted to regain control. It appears Earth has, finally, chosen to respond, he stammered. His wings fluttered involuntarily, betraying his nerves. Let us reconvene and address their statement when they. The entire chamber dimmed to black. A single spotlight illuminated the empty Earth seat. And the final message appeared, hanging in the air with unmistakable weight. Be careful what you push. The chamber remained frozen, breaths held, tension a tangible force curling between species who had once considered themselves superior or beyond fear. The silence stretched on for agonizing moments, each delegate silently wondering the same thing. The Senate chamber remained in stunned silence long after the final message faded. Delegates glanced nervously at one another, feathers ruffling, scales tightening, appendages shifting. High Chancellor Kovar cleared his throat, but the sound was bitter. Before he could speak, the grand doors of the chamber hissed open with a solemn hum that seemed to echo far too loudly. All heads turned in unison. From the west marble entranceway, they entered, a delegation of humans. Not a grand entourage with banners or blaring announcements, but 6 figures walking side by side in silence, each dressed in simple dark attire marked only by a subtle crest of earth over their hearts. No gilded robes or jeweled ornaments. No fanfare. Only presence. At their center walked Ambassador Selene Ward, her dark hair pulled back, her face calm but unreadable. Her eyes, however, carried centuries of history and fire. Her steps echoed across the crystalline floor, and each footfall seemed to shake something deeper than the foundation of the chamber itself. Beside her, a marine in ceremonial dress armor carried nothing but a single data tablet and a folded flag. A scientist, a diplomat, a historian, and a pilot rounded out the group, each an unspoken representation of what humanity could be. The whispers didn't return. Not this time. No one dared. Chancellor Kovar found his voice, but it lacked the confidence it held minutes before. Earth, you honor us with your presence at last. He tried for politeness, but the strain was evident. We did not expect you. Selene stopped a few steps short of the central dais. Her voice was clear, measured, and somehow softer and yet heavier than anything spoken that day. No, you didn't. There was nothing more. No apology, no excuse. Just truth. Kovar floundered. We have many matters to discuss. The Senate has passed measures. We are aware. Selene's interruption was not rude. It was a simple correction of reality. The delegates shifted in their seats, some grateful for the tension breaking, others growing more anxious. We meant no disrespect, Kovar offered, feathers puffing as if that could soften the blow. But silence is dangerous. We assumed consent. You assumed weakness, Selene replied calmly. You assumed absence. The marine beside her set the data tablet on the podium. A holographic projection unfurled into the air. A star chart. Dozens of markers blinked across it. Not military outposts. Not war fleets. Relief stations. Disaster response teams. Projects. Medical convoys. Trade development hubs. The chamber collectively inhaled. For the last 10 cycles, Selene continued, her tone never rising. While your council debated, threatened, and postured, humanity was busy. Helping worlds in crisis. Diffusing Bayordan conflicts. Rebuilding colonies after supernovae and quakes. Feeding worlds your Senate dismissed as. The Elden nodded faintly, his crystalline form dimming in a gesture of humility. He knew. We listened, Selene repeated softly. We watched. And we acted where action was needed. Without council approval. Without permission. Kovar opened his beak to object but stopped. What argument could he present? The pilot beside Selene stepped forward and keyed another image into the projection. Footage of human freighters and on fire, defending alien vessels from pirate ambushes. Another clip. Human engineers rebuilding a shattered aerorbita station that had once belonged to a rival power. Then another. Children of multiple species playing together in human colony schools. While you pushed for dominion, Selene continued, we forged connection. We showed up where it mattered, not where it was politically convenient. The chamber sat in reverent silence. Kovar exhaled slowly. Then why stay silent? Why not claim your seat sooner? Selene's eyes softened with something that might have been sadness. Because sometimes, when a room is too full of noise, wisdom only comes in silence. Her words lingered like a distant echo of thunder. She took a breath and finished. But you pushed. And so, here we are. Without raising her voice, without aggression, Selene placed the folded flag on the podium. It unfurled slowly in holographic display, showing the insignias of every species Earth had aided. Beneath the flags, a simple line, We don't need permission to do the right thing. The chamber erupted, not in outrage, but in quiet, cautious applause. A slow ripple. The Eldon stood and placed a hand over his core crystal. The ambassador crossed his arms in solemn respect. Even the silent, spectral loom pulsed brighter. Kovar sat down. He had nothing left to say. Selene nodded once, turned, and led the human delegation out of the chamber. The Earth seat remained empty, not abandoned, but earned. The Dominion fleet's withdrawal rippled through the galactic networks faster than even the Senate's attempts to control the narrative. World after world woke to the shocking reality that Earth's influence, once seen as minor, even laughable, had shifted the balance of power without firing a single shot. On the Bayordan world of Prime, markets bustled with trade ships bearing both human and alien banners. Dominion enforcers who once patrolled the streets with intimidation now stood uneasily at the edges, watching as human diplomats and engineers discussed projects in open plazas with alien civilians. In the Grand Hall of the Dominion Ministry on Capita Moon, Admiral met with the officials of his own government. Their expressions were tense, pride bruised and confusion mounting. High Minister slammed a scaled fist on the polished obsidian table. We should retaliate. This humiliation cannot stand. But, who once roared louder than any of them, sat still. Retaliate against what? Compassion? Aid convoys? Disaster relief? They did not fire upon us. They saved our citizens where we abandoned them. Do you not see? They've won this war without lifting a weapon. Hissed in frustration. You sound as if you admire them. Eyes narrowed. I do not admire foolishness. But I respect strength. And I fear what I do not understand. Earth is both. The room fell silent, until another official cleared her throat. There is more. Reports from the Bayordan indicate that human forces are building a joint hospital with 6 species. Our own aid convoys are being turned away in favor of their help. Scales flushed dark red. They are undermining our influence. Turned toward the window, watching the west beyond. No, we undermined ourselves. They merely filled the void. Meanwhile, on Earth, the United Galactic Embassy in Geneva hummed with activity. Displayed incoming transmissions from worlds once considered hostile. Offers of dialogue, requests for trade, and even apologies. Human diplomats, dressed in formal navy and silver, worked alongside translators and cultural liaisons, cataloging messages that arrived in waves. In a quiet corner of the embassy, Selene Ward met with Ambassador, a Christian being from the cluster. His voice was soft, musical, his form shifting gently with light. You have changed the galaxy with kindness, Ambassador Ward. We were not prepared for this. Selene smiled gently. Neither were we. Outside, news drones hovered, capturing images of alien delegations arriving on Earth's soul. Once a fantasy, now reality. Children waved flags bearing human and alien symbols intertwined, and merchants sold souvenirs commemorating the day Earth spoke without words. At the Senate, tension reached a boiling point. The chamber, usually filled with the noise of debate, was now weighed down by uncertain silence. Kovar, the most senior figure in the Senate, stood alone at the center podium. His voice, once booming with authority, sounded subdued. We have miscalculated. The seat we marked for its emptiness now commands more presence than all of ours combined. When Senator rose, his voice trembling. What do we do? Kovar's answer was simple. We learn. The chamber doors opened. Every head turned as the human delegation, led by Selene Ward, entered the room. This time, they did not sit in the gallery. They approached the seat. The chamber held its collective breath. Selene paused at the foot of the Senate floor, then ascended the steps. Without fanfare, without flourish, she sat in the seat that had remained empty for generations. The silence broke into murmurs, then a rising chorus of voices. Not angry shouts, but questions and awe. Selene stood again, raising one hand. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to gloat. We are here because the galaxy needs healing. And Earth has learned, through fire and struggle, that unity is born not of fear but trust. We have waited. Now, we offer our hand. Kovar met her gaze, and for the first time in his long career, he bowed his head. In the stars beyond, the Dominion fleet turned from its course of conquest and powered down its weapons. Across Kalani worlds, human and alien citizens gathered in public squares to watch the broadcasts. The galaxy had shifted, not by force, not by threats, but by presence. The seat was no longer empty, and with it filled, everything changed. The chamber was silent, the weight of centuries pressing down on every soul present. Selene Ward stood alone at the center of the Grand Senate floor. Above her, the West Dome shimmered with holographic constellations of every allied and independent world in the galaxy. Until now, Earth had been merely a flicker in those stars, acknowledged in name but dismissed in presence. That silence had protected humanity in the past, an empty seat, an invisible participant. But now that absence was filled, and all eyes turned toward her. Selene inhaled slowly, feeling not fear but gravity. Members of the Galactic Senate, she began, her voice steady and resolute, we have watched. We have listened. We have endured. Her words echoed through the chamber, resonating in the hushed space like the toll of a distant bell. The senators, towering, floating beings of translucent gas, crystalline eldons whose light shifted with their thoughts, sat motionless, waiting. For generations, she continued, Earth's seat has remained empty. Some took this as disinterest, others as weakness. She let the words linger, allowed them to settle. You assumed that silence was compliance. That absence meant submission. But Earth was watching, learning. We saw the decrees passed in closed rooms, the conquests disguised as diplomacy, the ultimatums given with polished words and clenched fists. And still, we did not sit. A low murmur rippled across the chamber. Selene raised a hand and silence fell again. Why? She asked, her voice soft but piercing. Because we knew that our presence would not be taken as equal, only as opportunity or threat. And so we waited. Until you pushed too far. She took a step forward. Her image, captured by floating, transmitted across millions of worlds. In refugee camps on shattered moons, in marketplaces bustling with beings of every species, in the war rooms of empires, all eyes turned to Earth's representative. You sent fleets to intimidate. You issued demands with the weight of power structures. You told us to know our place. Her tone hardened. And then you learned. Our place is beside those who stand for freedom. Our place is shoulder to shoulder with those who choose peace not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to resist the call of domination. A towering senator, his scaled body gleaming with authority, interrupted. Words are cheap, human. You speak of strength. But Earth has never challenged the Senate's will. Selene met his gaze without flinching. We did not challenge your will. We challenged the idea that it was absolute. The chamber fell silent again. While your fleets fired upon helpless colonies, she continued, her voice unwavering, Earth sent aid. Where your rules suffocated the desperate, Earth offered sanctuary. And where fear ruled, we brought hope. A slow transformation unfolded in the room. The senators leaned forward. Holographic screens shifted to show scenes captured over recent months. Human engineers rebuilding alien infrastructure. Human doctors tending to wounded civilians. Human soldiers standing as protectors rather than conquerors. Images of compassion and strength, the unspoken answer to centuries of oppressive policies. Selene's voice softened. We are not perfect. Our history is filled with mistakes and pain. But we learned. We learned that strength is not in dominating those weaker, but in lifting them up. That fear only breeds more fear. And trust can build an empire of peace far more enduring than any empire of war. High Chancellor Dreth rose slowly from his seat, his crystalline form refracting beams of light into prismatic rainbows. And what does Earth ask of the Senate? Selene smiled gently. We ask for nothing. She paused. We offer partnership. The word hung in the air, heavy and radiant. In the world left by tyranny, Earth offers collaboration. In place of ultimatums, we offer dialogue. But let me be clear, her voice sharpened once more, we do not come in submission. We come as equals. And if you cannot accept that, she gestured to the massive doors behind her, which opened with a soft hiss, revealing a delegation of humans standing shoulder to shoulder with alien allies. Beings once considered enemies, now partners. There are many who already have. A whisper spread through the chamber. Senators exchanged glances, some skeptical, others thoughtful, a few even hopeful. Selene descended the dais. Her final words echoed across worlds, you pushed too far. Now Earth stands. Not as a vassal, not as a subject, but as a force you can no longer ignore. In the silence that followed, the seat of Earth, long empty, shone with soft, unwavering light.